In this lecture, we will try to understand what is pumping lemma. Pumping lemma is an important lemma in theory of computation, which most of the students find difficult or hard to interpret. But once you understand it properly, it's pretty interesting, and you can ask more questions on it once you understand it properly. We are going to look into what this lemma is in detail. Should you have any queries, you should always ask me. You should try to understand each and every point of what we are going to derive, and if there is any query, you should bring it up. If you are lost at one point, you will find it difficult to take it on further. Before starting with pumping lemma, we assume some things. So before starting with pumping lemma, I assume that you know what are finite automata. Also, you know what are regular languages. And what are regular expressions. If you know this much knowledge is sufficient to understand pumping lemma. Even if you don't know what are regular expressions, it's okay if you pretty well understand what are finite automata and regular languages. So you should realize that not every language is regular. If I am given an input alphabet A, B, there are infinite number of languages possible on this input alphabet sigma equals to AB. We have seen the examples of some of the languages, such as language consisting of all the strings in which number of A's is divisible by 2, or a language consisting of all the strings in which every string ends with A, so on and so forth. We have an infinite number of languages, but not all of them are regular. Only some of them are regular. Here I am posing a question to you. Assume I give you a language which consists of all those strings W or omega, such that every substring of length 5 in this string W has at most 3 A's. Assuming my input alphabet is AB. Can you tell me whether this language is regular or not? So given to you any language, if someone produces a language in front of you and asks you whether this language is regular or not, what are you going to do? So in general, what we have seen is, for every regular language we have a finite automata, and given a finite automata, it uniquely represents a regular language. What I might try to do is, I might try to build a finite automata which actually recognizes this language, that is, accepts every string which is there in this language and rejects every string which is not there in the language. Or I might try to write down a regular expression for this. Please note that this is not a correct regular expression. I am just giving you an example. So here I might try to write a regular expression for this language, and if I succeed in any of these two, I can give you 100% guarantee that this language is regular. But what if the question is difficult for me and I am unable to make a finite automata or a regular expression? Making a regular expression or a finite automata for this question might be difficult. So how do you tell this language is regular or not? It can so happen that there is a finite automata or a regular expression for a language, but we don't know how to design that. So pumping lemma tells us something about it. We are going from the very basics. The entire question pumping lemma is trying to answer is, can I say something about whether a given language is regular or not? This is the whole question pumping lemma addresses. We were trying to tell, so given to us certain language L, how can we say it is regular or not? So one thing you can see is, if a language is finite, when do we say a language is finite? When it has a finite number of strings. If a language is finite, then it is definitely regular. You should figure out why. If a language is infinite, it can be regular or it can be non-regular as well. What we are going to do now is, we are going to take some regular infinite language, not some. For every, we are going to give a lemma which says that take any regular infinite language and this language will satisfy a property. This property is called pumping lemma. So every regular infinite language satisfies this property, right? Now please note that if given to me a language which is infinite, if a language is finite, I can directly say that it is regular. If a language is infinite, if it satisfies this property, I can't say it is regular. So the claim here is, given an infinite regular language, it will satisfy this property which is called pumping lemma. But please note that it does not mean that a non-regular language cannot satisfy this property. So there are certain non-regular languages which can also satisfy pumping lemma. But the whole point is, if you have a language and you can show that it definitely is not following this property, then you can say that it is non-regular. You can see it something, if you have studied discrete maths, you can see it like, if I have a regular language, please note that currently I am talking about infinite languages. So regular implies satisfies pumping lemma. So this is my implication. And you know that if an implication is true, its converse need not be true. So the converse of this statement says that if a language satisfies pumping lemma, then it is regular. So this statement is actually wrong. However, if I take the contrapositive of this statement, if a language does not satisfy pumping lemma, then it is not regular. So this one is true. We are soon going to see what is this property and what is this pumping lemma, but keep in mind, if I have to prove that a language is not regular, if I show that the language does not satisfy pumping lemma, I can say that the language is not regular. However, if a language satisfies pumping lemma, I cannot comment whether it is regular or not regular. I am beginning with the formal proof here. So we are now going to look into what is that property or what is this pumping lemma. So what is this property which is satisfied by an infinite regular language? So assume I have an infinite regular language L. It can be any regular language which is infinite. Let me write it down. Now what I am going to do is, I am going to show you that this language will have certain properties. I'm sorry if I'm being redundant, I just want to ensure that you understand it. This language will be consisting of some strings. I'm just like that taking some examples. If my input alphabet is AB, and please note that there will be infinite number of strings here in this language, since it's an infinite regular language. What now I am going to do is pick a string from this language. I'm sorry, I forgot a step. So since this is a regular language, I should be able to make a finite automata for this. So see, I am not going to make a finite automata. Since this language is regular, then I know that there is definitely some automata which recognizes this language. So assume that I have a machine M here which recognizes this language L. I can say that, let's say this is L1, I can say that the language of this machine M is L1. Also assume that this machine we have made here has P states. So if I pick any infinite regular language, I'm going to have a machine for that. That machine will have some number of states. We are assuming that number of states to be P. Next, what I'll do, I'll pick a string W from this language L such that the length of this string is greater than or equals to P. Please note that such a string will always be there in this language. You should figure out why. So whatever we are going to do in this proof, you can pull out a number of aptitude questions from there and try to solve them. So till the time you know the jargons and technical terms we are using, you'll be able to do that. So what I'm saying is, definitely there will be a string in this language whose size will be greater than or equals to P, which is the number of states in this machine. You should see that picking such a string is always possible. If you feel like picking such a string is not always possible, try giving me a counter example and you'll see such a counter example is never possible. Okay, so what we have done is, I'm again writing it here. We have a finite automata for this language which has P states, and now we have a string W belonging to L such that mod W is less than or equals to greater than or equals to P, right? Okay. See how we are going to now establish a property using this. What does a finite automata, how does a finite automata recognize this string? Recognizes this string by reading it. If on reading it, it reaches the accept state, the string is in the language. So definitely when I read this string on my finite automata, it reaches to your final state. So what will the sequence look like? I'll have my starting state here in that finite automata having P states. And then when I read the first symbol, let's say W1, I move to some state. I'm not writing the name of this state, I'm not specifying. So it can be any state, I don't know. So I'll move to some state. When I read the second symbol, W2, I reach some other state. When we read the third symbol, W3, we reach some other state, so on and so forth. Then assume that I came here on reading this symbol. You should see what does this symbol means. So mod W is the length of W. So length of W minus 2 means the second last symbol. Then I read W minus 1. So this was the third last symbol. When I read the second last symbol, I come to this state, and here is when we read the last symbol, we come to the final state over here. So this is how you read W over this finite automata. So now the question for you is, given that the length of your string is mod W, how many states will you see here? How many states will be there in this sequence? I would like you to pause your video and figure out the answer to this. Let's say in terms of mod W. So will you see mod W states here? So if I count these number of states, will it be mod W? Will it be mod W minus 1 or mod W minus 2 minus 3 or mod W plus 1 or mod W square? What? If you have answered this question correctly, so you will realize that you are going to see mod W plus 1 states here. Why is that so? That is so, assume that the length of W was 1. How will you simulate it on the machine? This will be my initial state. I'll read W1, and I'm assuming that mod W belongs to L. So I reach the final state here, right? So how many states in the sequence? 2. If the length of W was 2, then when I read W1, I go here, then I read W2, I go here, total of 3 states, right? So when you read a symbol of W, you move to a state, but you start from the initial state, so this results in the addition of one more state in the sequence. So here you are always going to see mod W plus 1 states, right? I'm just going to remove this portion. Okay. So just now we said that in this sequence we are going to see mod W plus 1 states, and we also know that mod W is and we also know that mod W is greater than or equals to P. So I can say that in this sequence I am always going to see greater than or equals to P plus 1 states. So at every time in this proof you should try to go back and link what is happening, or watch it again and again if something is not clear. This means that if I want to recognize a string whose length is greater than or equals to P, then in this sequence I should see greater than or equal to P plus 1 states. We also know that what is P? P is the total number of states in my machine. What does that mean? If I look at this sequence now, so here is something which comes into picture. It's called a pigeonhole principle. What is pigeonhole principle? So pigeonhole principle is something which seems to be very intuitive and very simple. So the pigeonhole principle says that, and it's applied at a number of places in computer science. So this the pumping lemma is actually nothing else except your pigeonhole principle. So it says that if we have some M holes and we have some pigeons which have to go and sit in this hole, and the number of pigeons is greater than or equals to M, right? So you have m holes, but there are more pigeons than the number of holes. I'm sorry, is greater than m. If the number of pigeons is greater than m, then definitely there is at least one hole where you should see more than one pigeon, right? Because even if one pigeon sits in one hole, so m pigeons can sit this way if they want to distribute them equally, but since the number of pigeons is m, at least one pigeon will have to sit in more than one hole. So I'm going to use this same argument here. What I'm saying here is this sequence, it is consisting of greater than or equals to p plus 1 state. So I should see greater than or equals to p plus 1 states here, written down here. But the total number of states in my machine is p. So assume that what I am trying to do is, if this is my sequence which is having greater than or equals to p plus 1 states, and I have total number of states which is p. So if I try labeling these states, let me say this is Q1, Q2. I am assuming there is no Q0 just for the sake of simplicity, assuming that the number of states in this machine is numbered from states in this machine are numbered from Q1 to QP. So I am labeling this Q1, Q2, Q3, right? So if I try to maintain different states everywhere, single state everywhere, so I am trying not to repeat the states, so I reach the pth state here, right? So I have a different state everywhere in this sequence. I reached my pth state here, but I should reach my pth state somewhere over here. Why is that the case? Because in this entire sequence I have greater than or equals to p plus 1 states, right? So assume that these are the p states and these are the remaining states, right? So it's saying that I'll definitely have at least one more than p. If I definitely have one more than p, so my labeling still QP will end here, and I should definitely repeat some state here. So the whole point is, if you apply pigeonhole principle to this, if you look at this sequence, at least one state will be repeated in this sequence. Now what I am going to do is, assume this was my sequence. I am not drawing the reading of the string here. So dot dot mode, it's going to be a big sequence, let's say. And now for sure I know that a state is repeated in this sequence. We'll start scanning this sequence from the first state here. We go to the first state, we see it's done. So I keep a note of what was my first state. I go to the second state and I try to see whether this state occurred before. So before I have seen only one state, so assume that this state was 1, right? Now I look at the second state. If it is 1, it means it has occurred before and I'll mark it. If it is something else, let's say 2, I'll move on. So I'll keep doing it. I'll go state by state. I'll see whether this state has occurred before or not, whether this state has occurred before or not, so on and so forth. So definitely at some point in time, I should find a state which has occurred before. Since we know that there is at least one state which is repeated in this sequence. So assume that this was my first state which has occurred before. So I name this state as QR. And let's say that it occurred before somewhere here, so this is also going to be the QR. So this QR is nothing but my first repeated state. Please note that we have said that there is at least one repeated state, so there can be more than one repetitions also. It can so happen that my sequence is something like Q0, Q1, again Q0, again Q1, again Q2, Q0, Q1, Q2. So this can also be my sequence where a lot of repetitions are there. So if I go by this principle, I see Q0, it didn't occur before, Q1 didn't occur before, Q0 did occur before. So this will be my QR and this will be my QR in that case. So here we are talking about the first repetition. We are not concerned about these remaining repetitions, they can be there. So we are talking only about the first repetition. Let me keep an example by the side of it. I'm keeping an example here. Assume that this was my sequence of states, right? In this case, and I was reading a string. Let's say the string I was reading was A, B, B, A, B. So here my QR goes to this one. Just let me some more states here. Assume that there was also a Q11 and Q10 here. Something like this, right? Okay. What I'm going to do now is, so this was my first repeated state. So this is a sequence of states which we got while reading that string. So what I am going to do is, based on this, I am going to divide my string in 3 parts. I am going to say this part, so whatever occurs during this part of reading the states, I say that part of this string is X. So I have been reading something over here to get to this state. So whatever symbols I see there while I reach from this state to this state, I take them in X. Whatever symbols I see here, take that in Y, and the remaining till you reach the final state goes to Z. So this is the decomposition of my string. In this case also, what is my X? So X becomes ABA here, Y becomes BBABA here, and Z becomes ABB, if you want to see with the help of an example. Okay. Next we are trying to establish some facts here. What we have done till now, we have looked at a sequence of states. We have shown that there should be at least one state which is repeated. Based on that repetition of one state, we have decomposed the string into 3 parts, X, Y and Z. I'm going to establish some facts based on this. So the first one says mode Y. So in my decomposition X, Y, Z, basically I am writing my W as X, Y, Z here. I am writing W as X, Y, Z here, where what was X? So X is when I was reading this portion X, I ended QR. So this much was X till the point I go from one QR to the next QR. So QR was the first repeated state. This much is my Y, and then whatever goes till final, whatever comes here was in Z. The first fact we establish is mode Y is greater than or equals to 1. I can also write it as Y is not equal to epsilon. It means that Y cannot be empty. It means that from where does that come into picture? So I am saying that this portion of this string, this can never be empty. This comes from our funda of repeated states. Since we say that definitely there is one repeated state in the machine, so definitely there is a pair of QR and since there is a pair of QR, you are always going to have this Y. In the worst case, even assume that this repetition comes together. So assume I have something like Q0, Q1, Q2, Q2, Q3, Q4. So I definitely have at least one repetition. Assume that this was the repetition and both this repetition comes together in this sequence of states. Then what is the value of Y? Even then here I would have read some symbol A. So in that case Y becomes A. So Y can never be empty, because if Y is empty, what does that mean? That means that both of these Q2 also coincide with each other. So you have something like this, Q0, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So I am doing it like if Y is epsilon, this implies there was no repeated state in the machine. All the because the formation of Y itself is based on the concept of the repeated states. If Y is epsilon, it means there are no repeated states, which leads to a contradiction, because that was the very first fact we established, that there is at least one repeated state in the machine. So this is the first fact, that mod Y is greater than equals to 1. Second is mod XY is less than equals to P. Now this is a bit difficult to see. Again, I will appreciate if you could pause the video and try to see it on your own, why mod XY is less than or equals to P. If you have tried it on your own and didn't get an answer, I am explaining it here. So we are talking about mod XY. See what happens when we read mod XY. So I am reading these X, I am getting some states. As soon as I read Y, it means I have reached QR, then I have some states, and then I am back on QR. This is my reading of XY on the machine. What I am trying to see, what I am trying to find is an upper bound on this mod XY. So we know that when we read mod XY on this machine, how many symbols do we see? How many states do we see? We should see mod X plus one mod XY plus one state. One state here when I read the portions of X, when I read the portions of Y. Hence this sequence consists of mod XY plus one states. I am going to write here less than or equals to, and can you predict what is the value here? So how many states can I see at max in this portion? Let me make it easier for you. So let's work with to answer this question, let's work with a simpler case before. You should notice here, so this was your first repeated state, so nothing was repeated in this portion, and you should see that even in this portion nothing is repeated. Let's say there was a state Qi here, and assume that Qi was repeated somewhere here, then this should be my Y. So this portion should be my Y, right? This should be QR then. So the whole point is, you won't see a repetition till QR, you won't also see a repetition after QR. So only this is your first repeated state. Otherwise, in this entire sequence of states, you see no repetition. To answer this question, I am making it into a simpler one. Assume that not even one repeated state is there. So here I am saying there is one state, exactly one state which repeats. No more than one repeats and no less than one repeats. I am taking a simpler case here. Assume that I say that no state repeats. So when I am reading this XY, so in this sequence I say that no state repeats. What happens in that case? We have seen mod XY plus one states here, and I am saying that no state should repeat. So if no state repeats here, do you see that this value should be less than or equals to P? because if this value mod xy plus 1, that is the number of states you see in this sequence, if this number of states exceeds p, then by our initial argument we used before, there should be at least one state which was repeated, but we don't want anything to be repeated, so mod xy plus 1 is less than or equals to p. Going back to the original problem, so here our case is one state repeats itself. So since one state repeats itself, mod xy plus 1 is going to be less than or equals to p plus 1. So this one corresponds to the one repeated state which was qr. And you get mod xy is less than or equals to p. You should always take some time to pause, do it on your own and understand what is happening here. Till now we established two things. First was mod y is greater than or equals to 1, and then we have mod xy is less than or equals to p. Now I am going to the third fact, which is the most important in the understanding of pumping lemma. What we were saying is, if this was my sequence of states and this was my state which was repeated, first repeated states, then I have some more states and reaching to my final state, something like this. Based on this, we have decomposed our string omega in three parts: x, y and z. Now see that when I am reading this string omega equals to xyz, what is happening in the machine? So I am starting from this initial state. I read x on it. So when I am reading x on it, I go through many states, and we see that none of these states is repeated, and when I am done reading x here, I arrive at a state which is qr. Next, what I am doing, next I am starting reading y on this qr. I again go to some states. Again note that none of these states is repeated there. So the first repeated state is qr back. So when I read y, I come back to qr. Then I go on and I read this portion z. Please note that this qr was the first repeated state. There can be more than one repeated state. So while I am reading this portion z, I can come across as many repetitions. I can come across a lot of repetitions. It can so happen that when I am reading z, I am going something like this. So anything can happen when I read this z, coming back from here and then going here and then reaching some final state here. And please note that these states here, they can coincide with these initial states as well, right? So I am not bothered about what happens in z. I can see a lot of repetitions in my z, but my whole idea is when I read x, I reach to qr. When I read y, I am back to qr, and when we read z, we are back to the final state. So if we just consider this diagram here, so this is my z. So I have x, y and z. So how is w read over this machine? I go to x and then we go to, let me use a different color. Okay, so how do we read w here? We go over this x here, then we take this turn and go to y, and then we take z and reach to the final state. Hence your w, it belongs to the language. Anyhow, we have considered it in the language. What do you think if what do you think will happen if I read this string on this language, which is just xz. So based on our decomposition, you should see that when I read x on this machine, I am on QR, and when I read z, I take this path and I reach this final state, which implies that xz also belongs to your language. This is important. If you do not understand it, you should leave a comment. What if we read x, y, y, z? X, y, z anyhow belongs, x, y, z is w itself. So if I read x, y, y, z, on x you come here, on a y you take this path, come here, again you read a y, you take this path again, and when you read a z, you come here. What if I talk about x triple y z? Again on x you come here, y you take a loop and come, y you take a loop and come, again you take a y and you take a loop and come. So you should actually be able to see for any value of I which is greater than or equals to 0, x, y, I, z belongs to L. So you can make I as small and as large you want. I can also be 2 and I can also be a million. So if I make I to be a million, so it means you are reading y a million times. So you can do that because y is just every time bringing you back to QR. So I read it one time, I read it second time, I read it third time. So what you are actually doing is, this portion of the string which is y, you can pump it up, you can repeat it any number of times, which we say that you can actually pump this portion up as many times as you want, and hence this is called pumping lemma. So this y you can repeat any number of times. So that was the third fact. If I want to sum it all, we'll take some examples based on this in the next video. What I just want to say is, if I want to sum it all, given to you an infinite regular language L, I can take a string w belonging to L. So I assume that there is a finite automata for this language L which has p states. Then I assume that I can pick a string w belonging to L such that mod w is greater than or equals to p. Further, you can decompose w into 3 parts x, y and z such that first, so this portion y is going to be pumped up, and this portion y can never be epsilon, so mod y is greater than equals to 1 since it's based on the concept of repeated states. Second, mod xy is less than or equals to p comes from your pigeonhole principle. And third, x, y, I, z belongs to L for I equals to 0, 1, 2, so on and so forth. This p here also is greater than or equals to 1 because this is the number of states in your machine. So this is how you can sum up the entire pumping lemma. There is one more thing we shall realize here. So till now the statement of the pumping lemma which we have written is for infinite regular languages. I can actually go on and I can remove this word infinite from here and make it generalized for all the regular languages. How? So you should see that all these facts, all these conditions hold well for your finite regular languages as well. Why? Because in the case of finite regular languages it is trivial. So in the case of your finite regular languages, let me show you how it works for your finite languages. It is trivial. Assume I take some finite language which is ABB, right? In this case my automata will look something like this: A, B and ABB. So you should see that in the case of a finite language, if you make a finite automata, it won't have a cycle. First of all, before talking about the cycle, you should realize that the number of states p in this finite automata is always going to be the maximum string length in your language. It cannot be less than this. So in this case, ABB, this is the maximum length of the finite automata. So the number you can say it's maximum string length minus 1 actually, plus 1. So P is your maximum string length plus 1 here. So since ABB is my maximum string length, which is 3, I have P, which is your maximum string length plus 1. Please note that we can never make it less, because if you want this number of states to be less, then for the string which is the maximum size string, you will have to include one cycle, you'll have to include one backward edge, and as soon as you introduce a loop in this machine, it starts accepting an infinite language. But the language we are talking about is finite. So please observe this. So P is your maximum string length plus 1. Now if you pick any string from this language W and you try it to pick it in such a way that it is greater than or equals to P. That's how we were trying to pick the strings from our language. So I try to pick a string which is whose size is greater than or equals to P. So you should see that this is never possible. In this case your P is 4 and my maximum string length is 3. So I can say that if W max is my string which is having the maximum size, then P is nothing but W max plus 1. I want to pick a string whose length is greater than or equals to P, but you should see that the length of W max itself is P minus 1. So the length of the remaining strings in this language is going to be all the more less than P minus 1. This means that picking a string whose length is greater than or equals to P is not possible. Pumping lemma says that you pick such a string and you prove it, but in the case of a finite regular language, you can't pick such a string. So your pumping lemma is trivially satisfied. How this is trivially satisfied? Let me again repeat it if I was unclear. Pumping lemma, what it was saying, that if I have an infinite language or I have a language L, right? So you pick any string whose length is greater than or equals to P. By picking any string, what does it mean? It means that your pumping lemma, which we talked about in the previous case, those 3 conditions, they hold for each and every string which lie in this portion. Assume that I sort the strings in this language in an ascending order, and these are all the strings here whose length is greater than or equals to P. Then pumping lemma says that you pick any of these strings here, any one of these strings here, right? And all those 3 conditions, that decomposition holds for all these strings. But we have seen that in the case of finite automata, this set is empty. So when this set is empty, it definitely holds, because we do not have any such string. So pumping lemma, you can generalize it from your infinite regular languages to just regular languages.